First this evening, let's queer up politics. Former students recall Tim Walz's support through GSA and his impactful guidance. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, now Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate, has a long history of supporting inclusivity and acceptance. Nearly 2 decades ago, Walz was a high school teacher and football coach in rural Minnesota, where he played a pivotal role in helping students establish the first gay-straight alliance. At Mankato West High School, Jacob Reitan, now an LGBTQ plus activist and lawyer, was a founding member of that GSA in 1999. Reitan recalls Walz and his wife, both teachers at the school, as incredibly supportive. Talking to MSNBC, Reitan said, both Tim and Gwen modeled values of inclusivity and respect. Seth Elliot Meyer, who attended Mankato West from 2000 and 2004, was another GSA member. Meyer, now 38, said Walz, quote, was in a minority of teachers who wanted to be okay with who I was and speak my mind, and whether it was with GSA stuff or anything else, end quote. He now teaches and advises at GSA at a private school in Atlanta. Emily Scott, 41, attended GSA meetings at Mankato West in 2000 and 2001. She says a conversation with Walz during a school trip in China inspired her career. She adds, quote, he set up the next 10 years of my life, and she followed his advice as it was. She lived in China for a decade, becoming fluent in Chinese. Another student named Larissa Beck attended GSA meetings as an ally until 2004 and had Walz as a history teacher. Now working in disability services, Becky fondly remembers Walz's support, noting that he even recognized her when they crossed paths at the state capitol in March. Queer activists make note of the historic nature of these students that have gone public on Walz. First, it was 1999, long before marriage equality and LGBTQ acceptance by any president. Walz was advocating for LGBTQ students in a small rural community. The HRC notes that high school football coach is a position that can often represent the most masculine of ideologies. Walz was able, as a married straight man, to embrace football, the creation of a GSA, at a time when it was incredibly difficult to do in a rural community. And the queer students believed they had a safe space. All of this was long before any political aspirations of becoming governor.
Schools are microcosms of society, and in many cases it's your last opportunity to share that socioeconomically, racially, and across the board. I had students come to me who were concerned that there was an uptick in some bullying towards our gay and lesbian students. And this is in the mid-90s. They asked if I would be interested in helping start a gay-straight alliance group. My answer was absolutely. And I recognized my responsibility in that. You have an older, white, straight, married male football coach who's deeply concerned that these students are treated fairly and that there's no bullying. And the idea that my players would be interested in coming to that and learn and to speak, to create a culture in a school that was welcoming, open, and understanding was something Gwen and I always strove for. Much the same way that as the senior enlisted soldier in Congress, when it came time to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, my job was to go and convince a dozen or so Republicans that this was the right thing to do. We did that, and I'm very proud of those 15 who joined us.
This is done.
We have transgender troops serving honorably right now, decorated warriors, and they see their commander-in-chief belittle them. Brave Americans who wish to serve this nation should be allowed to do so, should be respected, and certainly should never expect to have an attack on their basic patriotisms or their basic humanity come from the White House. It's our pledge here to make sure that doesn't happen. I certainly didn't serve 24 years to watch a fellow veteran be belittled for doing their job, and I will stand in that breach every day. Lots of people are making promises about a progressive agenda. Peggy Flanagan and I are the only team for governor and lieutenant governor who can actually deliver on those progressive promises. And we can because we've done it in the past.
Wow, I'm just impressed, right? All I can think back is, I don't know, you guys are old enough, I think, but I was in junior high. I remember junior high and high school. And now when I hear this story and I look back at my gym teachers and I'm thinking, yes, the masculinity was there, but they fully embraced students whoever we were. We didn't have gay students at the time, but I can see now where he's coming from, being the area he's come from, that they were the same type of personality. And I'm like, wow, that's just a great thing to think about.
Yeah, I love that he, went from obviously parallel path of being the football coach, and then deciding to do this for the gay students or the LGBTQ students is just such a remarkable thing that, it doesn't seem that long ago, but it is.
Yeah. And even more importantly, when I was reading this story, and I think back to my own high school experience and growing up and going to private school, and high school was my first time in a public school forum. And there was one teacher, Sarah Pence, I don't even know if she's alive or not, but just her openness. And we never even had a conversation about sexuality, but you just knew you could talk to her about anything. And so having that type of teacher support, especially she was a PE teacher, it makes a big difference.
Well, I must admit that initially I was concerned that Tim Walz would be to Kamala Harris what Tim Kaine was to Hillary Clinton, a boring as fuck dead weight. So I'm so glad that Walz has not only turned out to be nothing like Kaine, but the polar opposite of juvenile delinquent Vance. He is so far above and beyond not only Vance, but any possible choice that Trump and the Heritage Foundation could have made for his running mate. That sense of relief is across the board is palatable. We can all breathe a little easier. So the Harris-Walz ticket, in my opinion, is a hard-won gift to the LGBTQ community.
Well, I would just say to America itself.
For sure. Everybody's going to benefit.